Your body is here, breathing, blinking, replying when someone calls your name. But somewhere deep inside, you already know. Something left. It's like walking through your own life as a stranger. You laugh when expected. You show up where you should. But your eyes don't lie. They carry that faraway look, the kind only those who've stopped believing get. There's a silence inside you now. Not peace, not rest. A kind of emptiness that feels like a room after someone's moved out. Everything is still there, but the presence is gone. You didn't choose this. It happened slowly, quietly. One disappointment here, one betrayal there. 1,000 small abandonments, until one day, even your soul stopped waiting for rescue. And now you function. You wake up, you work, you smile, but you don't feel. Not really. Maybe you've asked yourself, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just be okay? But what if this isn't your fault? What if this numbness isn't weakness, but wisdom? What if the soul, in her quiet knowing, chose to step back because the life you've been living is too small for the truth you carry? What if this absence you feel is actually presence in disguise? The presence of a deeper part of you refusing to play dead any longer? And maybe, just maybe, this isn't the end of your story. Maybe this is the soul's quiet way of saying, I'm still here. I'm just waiting for you to come back home. So don't rush to fix it. Don't numb it. Just listen. Because the ache you feel might be the sound of your soul knocking. Not to leave, but to return. There comes a point in life where you stop being a person and start becoming a performance. You wear the right smile. You speak the safe words. You show up in the right roles, on time, every day. But deep down, you're not living. You're acting. It didn't begin all at once. It began the first time you were told you were too much for feeling deeply. The first time your truth made someone uncomfortable. The first time your silence felt safer than your voice. So you adapted. You learned how to shrink yourself just enough to be accepted, to dull your colors just enough not to stand out. You told yourself, this is just how life is. But something sacred was being traded. And you knew it, even if you couldn't name it. Your soul was being exchanged for approval, piece by piece, smile by smile. Yes, I'm fine. By, yes, I'm fine. You became what they needed, but who became what you needed? This is the invisible prison, the one made of smiles, achievements, and silence. A glass cage where you can see the world, but never fully touch it. And the worst part, everyone thinks you're okay. Because you're so good at pretending. You laugh when you're supposed to. You listen when you're expected to. You keep your pain quiet, your needs smaller, your truth buried. But the soul doesn't forget. The soul keeps score. Every time you betrayed your inner knowing to keep the peace. Every time you abandoned your own needs to make someone else comfortable. Every time you silenced your no to earn love. The soul stepped back. Not in anger, but in heartbreak. And now here you are, still moving, still breathing, but empty. You don't even know what you want anymore. Not because you're lost, but because you were never allowed to want in the first place. You wonder why nothing feels real, why joy feels distant, why your own reflection looks unfamiliar. It's because you've become the echo of who you were supposed to be. Not the voice, not the flame, just the echo. But even now, beneath the numbness, something stirs. A faint, unkillable truth. Not loud, not demanding, just waiting. Waiting for you to stop performing, to take off the mask, to whisper your real name into the silence. And maybe you don't know what that name is yet. Maybe you've forgotten, but the soul hasn't. The soul remembers who you were before you were taught to hide, who you are beneath all the survival. And no, you don't have to tear it all down in one day. You don't have to scream or shatter. Sometimes, the revolution begins with one quiet refusal. I won't pretend today. Sometimes, freedom is as simple as feeling what you feel, without apology. And sometimes that's enough to start cracking the glass, to let the light in, to let you in. If you could write one message from your soul, the part of you that's been silent for too long, what would it say? Share it below like no one's watching. Pain doesn't always arrive with warning signs. Sometimes it slips in quietly, wearing the face of routine. It doesn't scream. It seeps into your mornings, into your relationships, into the spaces where you used to feel most alive. At first, you tell yourself it's just a phase, just stress, just tiredness, just life. But then it lingers. And when it lingers long enough, it doesn't just visit, it becomes a part of you. You stop reaching for things you used to love. You stop answering questions with honesty. You stop asking yourself how you really feel, because the silence is safer. But here's the thing. This pain, this quiet ache that won't let you rest, it's not here to destroy you. It's here to show you what you've been carrying. Because pain has a strange way of revealing the truth. It strips away what's superficial. It leaves only what's real. You begin to see how long you've been exhausted, how many moments you survived instead of lived, how many people you kept near out of fear, not love. You begin to remember wounds you tried to forget, the father who never saw you, the friend who used your kindness, the lover who made you feel small. They left marks, not just on your story, but on your soul. But instead of breaking you, those scars shaped you, like ocean waves shape stone, like fire tempers steel. You became resilient. Yes, tired. Yes, distant, but not weak. There's a difference between being numb and being broken. And you're not broken. You're guarded. Because at some point, it stopped feeling safe to feel. That's the part no one sees. The sacred decision you made in silence, to survive at all costs, even if it meant losing yourself. In Buddhism, suffering is not punishment. It is a doorway, a crack in the illusion, a mirror held up to everything false, a teacher disguised as a storm. You weren't meant to avoid pain. You were meant to learn from it, to let it carve wisdom into your being, to let it guide you back to what's real, because there's something on the other side of pain. Not relief, not escape, but clarity. The clarity of knowing what truly matters. The clarity of realizing you never needed to be perfect. You only needed to be present. And maybe that's what this ache is. A quiet invitation, not to fight, not to fix, but to feel. To finally let the tears come. To finally say, yes, I'm tired. To finally admit, I miss myself. Because sometimes the most powerful healing begins when you stop pretending to be okay. When you let the storm pass through you instead of around you. And no, it won't be easy. But you've already done the hardest part. You've survived. Now it's time to do something even braver. It's time to feel again. To return. Not to who you were, but to who you are beneath the pain. You were never meant to carry it all. The expectations, the noise, the pressure to always be fine. But somewhere along the way, you began to believe that if you let go, you'd fall apart. That if you stopped controlling everything, the whole world would collapse. So you held on to roles, to routines, to relationships that drained you. You mistook control for strength. You mistook numbness for peace. You mistook endurance for healing. But detachment, real detachment, is none of those things. It's not apathy. It's not coldness. It's not shutting down. It's waking up. It's realizing that you don't have to keep proving your worth by sacrificing yourself. It's knowing that you're allowed to put things down, even things you once begged to hold. It's not giving up. It's letting go. Letting go of the version of you that always says yes. The one who performs strength but cries in private. The one who smiles for others but forgets their own face. Detachment is walking away from the roles that keep you small. Not because you don't care, but because you finally do. It's like unclenching a fist that's been tight for years. At first it aches, but then the blood returns, the life returns. There's a moment, and maybe it's happening now, when you realize that all this striving, all this holding, all this pleasing has never brought you closer to peace. So you begin to loosen your grip. You let the mask slip. You stop forcing conversations that don't nourish you. You stop chasing people who only love the version of you that's convenient. And something shifts. The noise gets quieter. The air gets lighter. You start breathing like you haven't in years. This is the paradox of detachment. The more you let go of who you're not, the closer you come to who you are. You stop needing to be seen to feel real. You stop needing to be understood to feel whole. You start finding safety, not in others, but in your own presence. You walk slower. You speak softer. Not out of fear, but out of alignment. You realize you don't have to explain your healing. You don't have to apologize for your boundaries. You don't have to shrink your truth to fit inside someone else's comfort. And no, not everyone will understand. Some will say you've changed. Some will leave. Let them. Because the soul doesn't cling. It flows. It moves. It trusts. And when you begin to trust the river of your own becoming, you don't fear what leaves. You bless it. You don't resist what ends. You bow to it. Because now you know. Anything that requires you to abandon yourself isn't love. It's bondage. And real freedom, it tastes like this. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just honest. You walking away from everything that costs your peace. You standing still when the world demands a performance. You whispering no more and meaning it. So breathe. Drop the act. Let the false weight fall. Because the moment you stop trying to be accepted is the moment you finally accept yourself. And in that space, unarmed, unfiltered, unapologetic, you don't just live, you arrive. There's a moment, after the letting go, after the tears, after the silence, where you're not quite healed, but you're no longer hiding. You sit quietly in your own presence. No mask, no noise, no role to play. And for the first time in a long time, it doesn't feel empty. It feels real. Because reality, stripped of all the illusions, is not perfect, but it's honest. It doesn't promise to always feel good, but it promises to be true. This is where healing lives. Not in the fixing, not in the proving, but in the allowing. Allowing yourself to be exactly who you are, without the pressure to be anything else. No more pretending to be okay. No more chasing what's already walking away. No more performing a life that no longer fits your soul. This is surrender. Not the kind that gives up, the kind that returns. You return to the breath, to this moment, to this body. Not perfect, not invincible, but still here. And that's enough. You are enough. Because healing was never about becoming someone else. It was always about coming home to yourself. The self that was buried beneath expectations. The self that whispered, "I can't do this anymore," in the middle of the night. The self that endured, even when it didn't feel like surviving. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to rush. This moment, raw, unpolished, honest, is sacred. You're not broken. You're becoming. Let that land. Let it sink into your bones like truth you always knew but were afraid to believe. Because what if there's nothing wrong with you? What if the pain was just the soul's way of asking for your attention? What if the silence you feared is actually where your healing lives? Sit with it. No need to run anymore. No need to perform. Just breathe. There is medicine in stillness. There is wisdom in the ache. And somewhere, beneath the noise, there is a voice, quiet but certain, that says, "I never left you." Maybe that's what this whole journey was for. Not to change you, but to bring you back. Back to your truth. Back to your breath. Back to this sacred now. So if you're tired, rest. If you're hurting, feel. If you're lost, stop moving. Because sometimes, the most radical act of healing is to simply be. To sit in the stillness and realize you don't have to chase your soul. It's been here all along, waiting, watching, loving you through every disguise. So stop fighting, stop fixing, just listen. Because maybe everything you've been searching for is quietly waiting in the place you tried hardest to avoid. Right here, right now, inside the silence. And maybe, just maybe, you don't need to be saved. You only need to remember. What if the life you crave begins the moment you stop pretending you're broken?